of the others. The difference between ours is we have the largest historical bases, 28, including dry cleaners, gas stations, all that other stuff. And we have the most databases of anybody. We have historic databases nobody else can get. We've been collecting for almost 20 years. We used to be a subsidiary of a company called Phase One Inc. We are no longer owned by Phase One Inc., and Phase One Inc. no longer does Phase One. So, hence where we probably got some of these photos. This presentation is brand new. We've had, 4 dozen registrants sign up for this webinar. And this will be the first of a group of a series of looking at photos for red flag surface features. So we're going to do one of these webinars a month, and every month, and until we run out of different things to look at. So each time we'll look at different things. This first series is, for the most part, pretty basic, but we're going to go ahead and pick the photos apart and see what else we can all find in these photos. That could be a concern to the subject property or could be a red flag. Now keep in mind, just because we call it a red flag today, it doesn't necessarily mean it ends up being a red flag in your report. It really depends really depends on whether or not you find other facts to support making something a recognized environmental condition. So, if you hear me, go ahead and send me a yes in chat. I'm not going to post them. I just want to know that most of you hear me. If you don't hear me, you really need to reboot. Okay? So it looks like the vast majority of you hear me. Now, remember, ERS, webinars, and all kinds of different webinars, really to help you do your job. If you pick up something in like optimizing your Phase One or aerial photo review or historical review, you pick up something that's going to help you in doing your job, then it's been a benefit for you to attend this webinar. You guys are all environmental professionals. You're going to know a vast majority of it. I don't know everything. So as we're going along, go ahead and chat. If you see something I don't see, go ahead and comment on it. I will ask questions now and then, and I'll say, hey, what do you see in this photo? And the idea is kind of pretend you're the site inspector and you took this photo and it's back for the report writer to review, or even if you took the photo for you to review at a later date. Because remember, you can't make all the comments you have on something while you're out in the field, and you might have missed something. So if there's any questions anytime, go ahead and ask them on chat. We'll go ahead and post the questions that are into what we're talking about. In some case, we usually post everything, so it's no big deal. I'm glad most of you can hear me. We're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. Now, the best way to slow me down in the presentation is by asking me a question. If you don't do that, I'm going to zoom through this thing and we're going to be done in 10 minutes. So ask me a question now and then. Remember, all these webinars, you can go to our website, reccheck.com, www.reccheck.com. You can see and sign up for webinars right there on our website. Very easy. All these webinars are then posted on a YouTube, and anybody can get them. The presentations you can get a copy of. RecCheck, RecCheck.com. So all these webinars are posted. Also, the PowerPoint presentation and the photos I'm going to use today, if you're a client of ours, we'll be glad to send you a copy of the presentation so you can use it with your people in training and all kinds of things. If you're not a client, you need to become a client. We're in business to help environmental companies succeed, because if you succeed, we succeed. So any feedback, suggestions, let us know. It's just like our report writing template. We make it better and better all the time. Our report writing template is free. If you use a template now, it's a slam dunk to use our template. Also, if you do a large amount of reports, we'll be glad to take your template and incorporate it into ours, because everything shoots into that template automatically. Site, name, all that other stuff. So anyway, without any further explanation, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Remember, I don't know it all. I hope you pick up a little something. But if you got some comments or feedbacks, please go ahead and send me a chat. So to get started, we're looking at really red flag surface features that were found during a site inspection. So we're going to look at cliffs, trenches, ground lifts, staining, and others. Now remember, there is no way in one webinar we can cover all the different features I can come up with. We're going to start with the basics and most important ones, and we're going to tear these photos apart to see what else we can find in them. There might be a whole lot more than just a clarifier or a sump or a trench in a photo. So here's the first group. And we've got a 3-stage clarifier, 2-stage clarifier, and another 2-stage clarifier. I'm not sure that's a 2-stage clarifier, maybe a 3. But it looks a little small to be a 3. So let's go ahead and actually look at these photos. So right here's the first photo. So right away, we have some red flags. I'm going to go ahead and point the red flags out, and you can tell me whether I'm right, wrong, or I missed something. So first of all, this is the clarifier. Everybody knows what a clarifier is. Look at the seams around this clarifier. What's going to happen if that clarifier overflows or if you get surface flow? In this case, it looks pretty clean on the surface, but what happens if that happens? Well, it's going to flow right to the subsurface and leave cracks. In this case, we don't see a lot of staining, but it's still a clarifier, and clarifiers, a large percentage of the time, leak either where the pipes go into the clarifier, into the concrete box, or leave the concrete box. So there's always a potential. Now, this is obviously associated with some sort of automotive, and with automotive, you use solvents and petroleum products, right? And so there is a concern, and it's a red flag, and this needs to be checked out. I mean, you may need to recommend sampling alongside this clarifier to find out if it leaked. What else do I see in this photo? So I have an above ground lift up here. See that right here? Can everybody see that? an above ground lift. I wonder if that above ground lift's original equipment and whether there was any ground lift at one time. I don't see anything over here. I see a lot of shadows, so I don't know. But that's a question I'd probably ask the site inspector who came in from the field. Hey, were there previously in-ground lifts? The other thing is, see right along here, there's some dark staining. I'm starting to get a little concerned right there. I'd like to know what's over there because, you know, maybe there was a air compressor that leaked a lot. Who knows what? But I'd like to know. This concrete is awful clean for an automotive repair place. So, anyone see anything else? You don't see the photo? Travis, do you see the photo? Really? Can anybody see the photo? Yeah, so it's something wrong with your viewer. Yep, right there. Hole in white wall. Everyone see the hole in white wall on the cursor? You're absolutely right, Jay. What was this clarifier connected to? Lots of times, and most of the times, a clarifier will be connected to a wash area, drains in the service bays, even corrugated long metal drains. Sometimes they'd have them all along the front, and those drains would all be connected. So those drains, wherever those drains are another source for subsurface contamination, and they need to be investigated. What is the small round metal cap next to the clarifier? That's probably a clean out. But I'd open it up and I'd put a flashlight down it, and I might even stick a tape measure down there to see if it's just a clean out for a pipe. And you can quickly tell very easily. Now, most field inspectors don't go to this. If you're not going to do during the phase one, you might have to recommend investigating this clarifier in a phase two, including sampling beside it. Good now, super. Thanks, Travis. I'm glad you can see it. I guess everybody can see it. So we're going to move to the next photo unless somebody's got something else. We really came up with a lot of things, 5 or 6 things that could have been red flags on this site. So let's go to the next photo. Oh my gosh. What is it? Well, no doubt it's one of the stages of a clarifier, if not a single stage clarifier. You can definitely see liquid goes in it and goes out of it. But right on the floating surface is obviously some sort of petroleum product. Now, you could call it oil, but you don't know that it's oil. It potentially is, but definitely you can see where these pipes go here and here. Definitely a potential for a leak source, definitely a potential for holding hazardous materials. You want to get pump records. You want everything because this thing should be pumped off on a regular basis. And you want to know which ones are inlets and which ones are outlets. And again, where do they come from? Drains, wash areas, whatever. But if you didn't take off the cover, you would never see this. You need to take off the covers. The inspectors, when I used to do inspections, I always had a little crowbar, a claw hammer, a screwdriver, and a couple other things so I could quickly do things and get around. You can also ask the site contact to pull off the cover for you. If they've never pulled off the cover, well, you got a super red flag then, right? Because that means that it's never been pumped and nothing's ever happened. Okay, this is the third photo in our set. And there's so much in this photo, it's unbelievable. So I'm going to point out the obvious. Right here, right here, we have a 3-stage clarifier. We have staining around the clarifier, staining around the seams around the clarifier. We also have this whole area where there's a crack in a seam, where it was probably when they installed the clarifier, but we don't know that, right? We have something in this view right here. Anyone have an idea what maybe that is? It's at the end of the clarifier. It's a pump, or it looks like a pump to me. So, Rathima, I think you need to probably reboot your machine if you can't hear me, because everybody else can hear me. So it's probably your machine if you can't hear me. But yes, that's probably a pump. It'd be an unknown feature if you didn't know what it was. You want to for sure ask the person you met on the site or whoever owns the site what that was. But I'm guessing it's a sump pump designed to pump out what overflows from that 3-stage clarifier. But boy, it could be an underground storage tank. Could hold all kinds of things. And you don't know for sure until you gather the facts to see exactly what it is. So then we've got a couple other things in this photo that would concern me. First of all, we have all this staining on the wall here and staining right here. Now, hopefully the assessor in inspecting this site took some up-close pictures, pulled off that sump pump because we got staining all over it. But we've got the staining on this wall, and so something definitely was here. And so we've got red flags that there could be subsurface contamination from the sump pump, from that. But look at the staining right around this post. That's indicative of they were doing some sort of washing, something out there, but they had a lot of stench, huh? Whatever they did out here should be a concern for subsurface contamination, and it's surely petroleum products or some sort of hazardous materials. And we have the staining here and the trail leading all the way right here to the sump and more staining, that's a concern. What did they do here? What did they dump here? What did they wash here? These are all red flags that should be identified by your site inspector. Does anyone see anything else in this photo we need to talk about? Okay, let's go back to our slides real quick. So we pretty much talked about all three of these pictures. We picked up, almost a dozen red flags. Let's go to the next set of pictures. Wow, look at this. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at these pictures up close. So here's the first one, right? So we've got a sump that's overflowing. Obviously, it's not draining properly, right? Big red flag. Right here, you've got a seam in the concrete. Bad, bad, bad to the bone. Now, maybe the cleaners they're using aren't hazardous materials, but if you look over here, let's zoom in on this a little bit. Right here, see this right here? Can everybody see that? See how the rock and the concrete's coming out? That means whatever they're using is caustic. Well, number one, if it's caustic, there's a chance it could have hazardous materials in it. But the other thing is, that means it's pulling off the oils and greases and other things on what they're using and putting it right over here. And it could be seeping down into these cracks, all kinds of things. This is like bad to the bone. In addition, there's a cleaner right there. And there's a paint can or something, a gallon can with corrosion on the top. There's some sort of drain or something that could go to the subsurface right there. Man, I'm concerned, big time. Absolutely big time concern. Whole bunch of red flag. So the first thing is your assessor should say, hey, I need a list of all the cleaners you're using that go into this sump. So I need a copy of all your MSDSs or your hazardous materials management plan. That's the first thing. The second thing is, besides the sump underneath this stuff, I want to know where are all the drains that go into this sump, because this shouldn't be a normal situation. They don't usually wash things and it just rolls to the top of the sump. Let's look at the next one. So here, this is that same sump. Now it's uncovered. They pumped it out and cleaned it. Let's look at this thing. It's pitted all the way around. Oil. See all the oil staining in here? Bad, bad to the bone. See the seam around here? Really, depending upon what they used and how long they've been there, because they may be using cleaners and solvents that are environmentally friendly now, but what they used 20 years ago, 30 years ago, nobody used environmentally friendly stuff 30 years ago. If they'd been here doing this for 20, 30 years, you need to sample beside this sump. At least down to 7 feet, so you get below the sump a significant amount. Because remember, based on a cone, upside down cone is how contamination contamination spreads, you need to be able to, and it's always going to drip off the lowest point. So anyway, with that flooded, it's going to put pressure on these cracks, these seams around this 3-stage clarifier. This is nasty, would be a big concern. Can anybody else? Did I pretty much cover? I really want to know where this is coming from. Clarifiers are probably one of the biggest red flags, whether they're in automotives, car washes, gas stations, you name it. And the reason being, even if it's in a car wash that doesn't have a gas station, think about what they're cleaning off their cars. Petroleum products, always, all the time. Okay, so that's a sump. We pretty much covered sumps. This is 2 really fun photos. So take a little peek at them. We're going to get the bigger photo up and really look at it here. So let's look at it. So right away, we got a drain. This is one of your typical old drains that would be in front of a service bay or going down the middle of a service bay and all leading to a clarifier. So we've got a whole bunch of issues here. First of all, we have significant staining right here. Can everybody see my cursor move around? On the very front of this trench drain, we've got a whole bunch of staining. Now, besides that petroleum product going into the drain, you can see the seam of that concrete drain right here, all along there. That's another source of subsurface contamination. And you can see it followed that seam a little bit right here. So all this is a concern for going in that crack. Look at that. It didn't even cross the seam right there. So you got the seam for potential contamination underneath the subsurface soil. You got the drain. But what else do we see here that should be a big concern? What is this right here? Can anybody tell me? Erosion of the concrete. Yes. And something caustic had to do that. Could be battery acid. It could be all kinds of things. It could even be solvents. But you need to ask some questions and of what they've used on site. I like this right over here is a little electrical twist nut. Right? Anyway, hope they don't put that on a car or something. That'd be not bad. But you're right. And this is something your assessor should be pointing out and looking for all the time because it's indicative of using hazardous materials. Of course, not always. It's not inclusive. You've got to have more facts to draw from. Okay, if there isn't anything else on this, let's go to the next one. Oh, we missed one somewhere, didn't we? No? That one. Okay, I love this photo. Look, they lay down this cardboard and absorbent mats because they want to get their feet dirty and they're thinking they're going to really absorb stuff up before it goes into the storm drain. Well, man, that's a huge red flag. First of all, we've got this sump. which is or drain box, and who knows how many things branch off from this drain box and where it goes, but it's not a sump. You've got this crack, and you can see the leakage from wherever is leaking into this crack. So you probably got subsurface contamination. And I mean, this is pretty wet, so it's continual. You have this above ground. Yes, they did. It's crazy. And obviously, they didn't use enough absorbent mats. But then you've got this above ground storage tank, and hopefully the assessor takes a picture of what's inside this and finds out and walks around this above ground storage tank to make sure this isn't coming from something over here, right? This is just crazy, crazy, crazy. It looks like it's diesel or oil, but who knows? You've also got, look right there. It looks like, again, you might have some pitting of concrete. It's hard to tell in this photo, but it's very possible you've got some pitting of concrete. I might even want to know what's in this box because it looks like it's collapsed a little bit, but it could be just from rainwater. I don't know if this is an indoor or outdoor photo. Can anyone else see any other red flags we should be talking about here? I like the way they have this jack holding up this storage rack so it does depress this storm drain too much. But that's also a bad thing. Look at how that crack, that seam is full of oil. Got a lot of oil right over here too. I mean, they've been spilling for a long time, and it's pretty thick, greasy, evaporated here. So that's all a concern. Would petroleum products cause pitting, or is that exclusive to caustic cleaning products? You know, I really haven't seen or know of petroleum products pitting concrete. If anyone has, let me know. But it's not exclusive to cleaning products. It could be, you know, in plating facilities, they spill acids and all kinds of other things that pit concrete. There's a lot of things that pit concrete, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a cleaning product. Just something caustic or that reacts with the calcium in the concrete, right? So it could be many things. Boy, that's a great observation. The jack means they don't open the grate because that shelf is on there, right? And it's not really a jack, it's a jack stand, so it can't jack anything up. But yes, you're absolutely right. So what's in that storm drain? I'd take my camera and put it right up and take a picture of it if I couldn't open it, see if I can get something in there. But you know, there's oil film and everything, whether it's leaking from the pipe intrusions coming into it and going from it and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? But the first thing that needs to be identified here is what this oily stuff is and where it's coming from. And then if it's actually a concern for subsurface contamination, then they need to sample. And if that is caustic pitting of the concrete, I can't really tell. This isn't that good of a photo. This is probably a photo from the old days when we didn't have good digital cameras. So, any other questions on this? That was pretty good. You guys are wonderful. Okay, let's go to the next thing. I think we pretty much got those two. Here's two really interesting ones. Now remember, I didn't label these. Part of my team did, and they did a great job. But let's go ahead and look at these two things. So first of all, here's that drain. Now there's a couple things they did really good. Can anyone tell me in this photo what the people at this site did really good? Yes, they sealed the floor. See this? This is all sealed, and the seams are sealed. You don't find that very often, but when they do it, it's great. It keeps contaminants from going in. And they also open the drain for us. That's cool. But I want you to know, right away, the first assumption is that this is bad because looks like oily stuff in it and debris and all kinds of other stuff. But if you look a little closer at it, see this bar going across? This is a strainer. How sweet is that? They just need to clean their strainer a little more often. But there is something bad. There is something bad here that is really obvious and is really sticking out to me. Can anyone see it? How about the seal on the edge? All the concrete is pitted and broken, and it looks like in this little sump or catch basin or drain basin or whatever you want to call it, it looks like it's not sealed. See that? Looks really bad, especially right in here, huh? So that'd be a red flag. And it could be pipe corrosion, lack of caulk. Yep. All those things are a red flag for subsurface contamination. Now, it really depends what they use on site, right? Or could have used previously. That's, as an environmental professional, that's what you've got to do. Also, they're seam sealed in. So whatever they're using is fairly caustic, right? Because it's eating away at their seam seal or caulk or whatever. Pretty cool, huh? This is a great photo. But this is what your field inspectors should be bringing back to the report writers if they're not the report writer, because they need to be able to address these situations to protect your client and protect you. Let's go to this one. Wow. Wow. That's all I don't know what else to say. You know? So the first thing I did is I looked at this and I go, you know, this looks like pitting again, but it isn't. I think this is more absorbent material. But there's so much in this photo. This is a floor drain. Obviously, it kept clogging on them, so they removed the grate off the floor drain. It's a small floor drain. But obviously, you got petroleum products or something leaking into it. You've got cracks in the concrete where it's obvious some of this material's flowed. Look at this right here. So you had a big wave right here, and where'd it go? Right into that crack. crazy. Got some sort of machinery over here that's leaking some of this. So the cracking in the floor, what's going in the drains, where's the drain go? Whole bunch of huge red flags that should be a concern. I have no idea what this is here. Could be anything. Anyone see anything else? See this bolt into the ground holding this piece of equipment? That bolt is also a conduit into the subsurface. And you can see how everything pulled right here. So this thing's huge red flag. Got to find out what they use on site, do on site. Probably automotive. Let's go back to that photo. Let's see. Drain with oil staining. It's a service bay. So there you go. Service bays are notorious for using solvents to clean up stuff, and everything goes right into the drain. Let's go to the next one. I don't want you guys to get bored with all these drains. So these are some fun, really fun photos. Some of the newbies may not know what some of these are. So here's your typical service bay. And right away, there's just a million things in there. This is one of the cleanest service bays I've seen. I did an inspection on a Ferrari dealership, and I'll tell you, you could eat off their bay floor. But let's zoom in on this thing a little bit. And what do we got here? We have an in-ground lift. Now, depending upon from where you're from, a lot of times the hydraulic oil inside these lifts, which is only 30 or 40 gallons, they only have a real small tank around the main shaft of the lift. A lot of times the hydraulic oil isn't considered hazardous materials. It really depends what your city, county, where the inspection is defines. And then a lot of them do. So this is hydraulic oil. What can be in some of the really old hydraulic oil uses and lifts and anything hydraulics on tractors and stuff like that? What additive did they used to put into hydraulic to help keep it cool? David, you're absolutely right. It's rare. When I was in the environmental consulting business, and I'm not anymore, we sampled, I don't know how many lifts. And out of dozens and dozens and dozens of sampling hydraulic lifts and leakage beside them, we only found one that had PCBs in it. It's rare. But when you do find it, oh my gosh, it's a crisis. It's a big deal. So remember that. So what else do we see in this photo? We've got an in-ground lift. There's a couple other things. And remember, when your assessor is doing an inspection, good things, pointing out good things are just as important as bad things, because you set a benchmark for that date and time when you inspected the site. Okay, so oil lines are hanging from the ceiling, right? Need to know the path the lines take. A portion may be underground, and the tank could be underground as well. Absolutely. So right up here, you got greases, oils, air. Your air compressor could be a point source of contamination, all kinds of things. And the air compressor oil definitely had PCBs in it in one time. Lift posts are stained. See right here? Here's an above ground lift. How come that's stained? Well, it may be hydraulic, And the hydraulic piston is leaking oil right there. And where is that oil reservoir? Is it on the post, in the post? Where is it? But let's point out some good things. Look at this. Everything's clean. There's no staining. This probably should be double contained. It looks like they're dumping something in it. Here's the oil catch thing. There's no leakage. They're using that to catch the oil from cars. I don't like this pan underneath here because that's an oil pan. I'd be looking for staining under there. That's about it. Now we have heating and air conditioning. One nice thing is we can see up here that that's probably natural gas or propane supply. You don't usually have hanging fuel oil heaters. What else can we see in this photo that should be of interest? They obviously cleaned up a little bit for us. See this workbench here? They're not as neat as it really looks today, right? Look at this workbench. So I'd be looking on there to see what solvents they're using and that kind of thing. But otherwise, this is a fairly clean garage. I like that staining. That's a good catch. Used oily rags bin seems to be utilized. That's a plus. Yep, right there. And I would make sure that I noted these things, the good things as well as the bad things in the phase one. Because again, it sets a benchmark for you or a baseline for this site. On that date, this site had good housekeeping, but 20 years down the road, they find contamination. They can't come back on you or come back on your client. So, pretty cool. Okay, so that was kind of a fun photo. Let's look at another one. So here we've got another exceptionally clean garage, right? This is an Audi dealership. You can tell their garage looks just absolutely pristine. And they've got all above ground lifts. Again, we've got those hanging oil and grease lines and water lines and all kinds of things. But we don't have any staining at the base. But we got some things that are really important here. And I'm going to point them out. The oil can creep up 4, 5, 6 inches just from spillage or leakage on the base of that base. Oil tends to move around. So it's not that it flooded or anything in there or there was a big spill. What are all the hole patches in the floor? That's the big thing about this photo. So first of all, you've got this patch right here. Everybody can see it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more because this is a really good photo. So you got this patch right here. That's where it used to have an in-ground lift. So red flag. You need to get the documentation of that lift being removed and that they sampled and then it was clean. Also, what concerns me about this is right here. Everybody see this little square? That's where they used to have the lift controllers. So all the lines went underground. So they could have leaked anywhere, wherever the source of the hydraulic fluid was, wherever the source of the whatever. This is where their controls were, and there's no cutout lines in the concrete saying they took those lines out or checked to see if they leaked. And those valves that they used to, the switches they used to raise and lower, they were valves for the hydraulic pressure, lots of times would leak and there'd be significant staining. And you can see one in every bay where they had an in-ground lift. Now we can see they're using absorbent pads for cleaning up their spills, and their floor's been sealed with some sort of resin, and their cracks have been sealed, and it looks pretty good from that standpoint. But the red flag would be where the switches were, and these are old hydraulic lifts to have those switches in the ground. Usually they had them off against the wall or something like that, the valves. So that's a concern. Let's see what else we can see in this photo. We zoomed in pretty far. We've got a little staining on that trash bin, whatever that was used for. Again, natural gas heating or propane heating. Very important to identify that, because remember, if it was fuel oil, you know, you got to identify if there's a fuel oil tank on the side. Anyone see anything else that we should be concerned about? Got a little staining here, but I'm not that concerned. Housekeeping, reasonable. Again, still for an automotive shop, this is, you know, when you're inspecting automotive repair, well, you want to have all your places like this, right? And there for all your newbies, there's the in-floor hydraulic lift. Now I want you to note something, and this is really important. They did not take the hydraulic lift out. They might have taken the shaft out, but the remaining surrounding structure hasn't been removed. They just put concrete in this. This is a pole that would go up and down to keep it from twisting. That's all that hole was for. But they did not remove the hoist, the casing of the hoist. They just removed the shaft. So whoever did this really shafted the owner, because really they should have removed that to make sure there was no contamination. So now it's still unknown if there's contamination from the shaft, and now someone's got to come out and dig it up again to make sure there's no subsurface contamination. Everybody see that? Great slide. Okay, let's go to the next one. If no one has any questions, we've got more stuff. Well, here we go. Auto mechanics. Man, this is just a fun one, right? This is the kind of site that you can spend forever trying to identify everything. Sooner or later, you just lump it all under one big concern and just don't try to identify everything and call it sampled area. So let's go ahead and look at these photos. I can't wait till we get to this one. So look at that. Surface staining goes nowhere. It sits around the base of this concrete block wall. That means right around it, at the seam of the concrete slab to the block wall, everything's going to leak into the ground. You can also see that it's pulled here over and over and over, and then it evaporated or drained or sunk into the ground. That is bad. That's indicative of subsurface contamination right there. And look at this right here. I don't know what that is, but that's probably a seam. And see the seams around here? Big time red flag for subsurface contamination. Again, you got to find out what's going on. I see it over here. I don't see a lot on the wall. Kind of like to know what was there at one time, but you may never know. Got staining over here too. Okay, let's go to the next one. That was pretty basic. This is the one I really like. And remember, I've never seen the photos that they put in until right now. So it looks like a mechanic that's just got a pole shed covering his area mechanic. It looks like it's all on dirt. There may be asphalt under that mess. But there are so many red flags here. I'm going to point out every one I can, and then I'm going to let you guys tell me what I missed. So, first of all, look at this plastic bin here and staining all around it. And staining on the ground, and it looks like this is a low point. It looks like they're washing parts there. So you've got solvent usage, petroleum product, all kinds of things that could have leaked into this bare ground. Bad, bad, bad. Right here we've got an unknown 5-gallon drum with staining on the side. Surely this whole site's poor housekeeping. I want to zoom in onto this point just a little bit. We've got another container here with staining all over it. We've got a big container. These are liquid vats. Probably contained oil or antifreeze or something like that, but I have no idea. But staining is so heavy around here. Same with this. This was probably oil at one time. I like that truck way up there. I wonder how they get that truck up there. But anyway, that's beside the point. You got big, heavy staining all around. They probably just drained the oil right on the ground. Who knows? So surface staining is going to be a recognized environmental concern. I like that, David. A lot of times they'll take the oils and stuff and dump them in the South 40, dump them down the toilet, and dump them in just about anywhere, instead of spending the money to properly dispose of anything. I mean, this is pretty much a rogue mechanic, right? You've got all kinds of empty containers, storage bins, trash bins staining on the bottom, meaning they dumped all kinds of stuff into it. This thing is just a nasty, nasty site. And I don't know about you, but this would be a big wreck. Look at that right there. I have no idea what that is, where that comes from. You know, I don't know that we could cover everything in this thing. Yeah, I don't know if this canopy was from a former gas station, but you could definitely look at it. But if I recall, this thing was kind of in the center of a property. So it really didn't fit. It wasn't on the edge of a property or on a corner. So it didn't really fit. That doesn't mean it wasn't a truck gasoline thing at one time. I guess it could have been. But in the further inspection, you'd probably find this site, got a lot of phase 2 sampling, subsurface sampling in. This was in the kind of the Riverside area of California, kind of out in the boonies, and this thing got extensive sampling, and all kinds of stuff was found on the site. There were batteries were broken and leaking acid. It was, it's just amazing. But keep in mind, 30, 40 years ago, nobody worried about it. Nobody cared, and everything went on the ground. Okay, we got to get moving a little bit. I've told them at the 1 hour mark. This is some staining in a planter. And this was beside a tire store. And they just dumped all their cleaners and solvents and oils and greases. And when they clean brake things and everything, they just dumped it in the planter. This caused about a $25,000 cleanup. Because when it was sampled, it was high in TCE, trichloroethane, and all kinds of petroleum products. And I think we picked up some heavy metals in this. And you're going to love this. I think we picked up asbestos in it from brake linings. The site had been around a long time. This is, what do you see here? Well, obviously it's near a spray booth where they paint things and stuff. So you got layers and layers of paint on the surface. Wherever they used paint, they had solvents, thinners, that kind of thing. And so you got cracking on the ground. But you also have layers and layers of old paint. And if it's real old paint place or paint spray booth or whatever, a lot of times the old pigments had lead in them. And so there could be lead contamination in these old paint chips. So that's what I see there. Otherwise, I don't see a whole heck of a lot more. So let's go to the next slide unless someone had any questions about those, because I'm running out of time. We did that one, but let's look at these two. White staining on concrete. Let's go to that real quick. What's this look like to you? Can anyone tell me what this looks like? And I could be totally off base here. Could be any one of those. Muriatic acid would do something like that too, right? But right here looks like a boring core to me. It looks like someone recently put a boring in the ground here. And so they bring in a coring concrete cutter, and they inject water to keep the blade cool and maybe they didn't mop up the water, and that's dried from the concrete coring. Possibility. But we got this, we need to know what it is, and we've got, hey, Why did they put this coring in? Is there a phase 2 sampling somewhere I should know about? Is there a phase 2 report? Right? Possibility, right? Right there. Okay, let's look at this photo a little quicker. Concrete, staining. Let's see what this says they did here. Photoplate manufacturing. Oh, that ain't good. All kinds of solvents and heavy metals. And look at this stuff along here. I have no idea what that is. So again, big time red flag. Should take a picture of this. And then you've got to investigate and find out what they used on site and if there is a potential. And remember, when you're writing a phase 1, you're building a set of facts that lead up to a recognized environmental condition. Whether there's current contamination or there's potential for contamination. It becomes a recognized environmental condition. That's what you're doing as a phase 1. Oh, I like this one. We're going to just zoom through the other ones now because we're running out of time. So, I'm being told I got to cut it. So, look at it. Someone went out here and did some phase 2 sampling. Look at this line of sampling. I love it. I just love it. So basically, if I saw anything like this, the first thing I'd do is I'd think there was an underground storage tank underneath this patch. The second thing is I've got a line. That means they sampled. And then these bigger ones are telling me there was probably monitoring wells on this subject site. Look at those. That's what I get out of this picture. And I also have a storm drain near where an underground storage tank was probably at. And I'd want to see where they pumped out the fuel in this storage tank. Now remember, I'm the site inspector. I don't know for sure there was a storage tank there, but all this is indicative of a storage tank being there. And I want to make sure that by going out to the site one time, I get everything I need. So even though I don't know that a storage tank was there, I'm going to just say, hey, there's a possibility, and I'm going to go look and see where the pump was. Because that could be a concern. And then I know where the lines ran and all that. Then I'm going to make a note in my field checklist and say, hey, sampling was done on site and monitoring wells probably on site. We need to research this and find out what the results were. And then look at the staining right here. Neat, huh? This is really a great photo. I just love this chain of samples of borings. It's just unbelievable. Okay, here's an irregular cutout. This is the same concern. Now, this could be just a patch in the asphalt, but it doesn't look like it's a low area or like a driveway. This is a parking area. And it's usually where there's driveways and stuff where asphalt gets all chewed up and they have to replace it. So this would be an unknown feature. I want to know why they cut out this asphalt. Did they just do it? Is this a red flag for there used to be an underground storage tank, or what is this? That's the concern in this photo. Here's another irregular cutout. Remember, something was underground. What was underground? Was there a lift here? Was there something? What was over here? Is this where there was, excuse me, a sump or a clarifier? Both those things concern me. Obviously, they're trying to clean up the site, and that's good. But you need to know your site assessor needs to take pictures of this because you need to identify. And while they're on the site, they need to ask the site contact if they know what this is. Or you send those photos to the owner and say, hey, what are these from? Okay, you guys are still paying attention. That's good. So, wow. This tells us right away what we got, huh? So, this is either a groundwater monitoring well for a tank, or it's a Vados well, or some other part of a tank monitoring system is in this well. Now, when we first started, or people first started putting monitoring systems for underground storage tanks for gas stations, they used to do a Vados zone monitoring system was one of them. And this could be that. But boy, you're going to want to know what this well is, and you want to identify it and take a picture of it. And obviously, there's some new construction going on. So this could even be they were putting in new tanks, and they put in this tank monitor well, and it may be in the backfill of the tank pit. And so this could be so that you could Vados zone sample this site every once in a while to make sure the tanks and lines aren't leaking. Anyone got any other comment on this picture? Pretty good, huh? And these are all things that the site assessor should look at. Now remember, there's thousands of things, red flags to look at. These are just some of the most concerning and common things. We're going to get into some really crazy things in a month in the next webinar. Okay, someone tell me what this is a picture of. Anyone know what this is a picture of? It could be tank filled back material. I don't know. But it's unknown material on a site. It's something you need to know whether it's contaminated or not. You're going to have to recommend sampling it unless the owner of the property knows exactly where it came from and that it's clean. And then you have railroad ties. How old are those railroad ties? The older railroad ties had creosote with really bad stuff in it, like pentachlorophenol. So that could be a concern. So this is all something that could pose red flags. But I've got something else in this photo that's concerning to me. Yeah, abandoned vehicles, sure. I buy that. Nice water well on the right side. See it right there? That's most likely a water well. May not be, but it most likely is. If it is a water well and you research it and find out it is, it's a perfect thing to sample or find out if it's ever been sampled, to find out if the site has any area-wide groundwater contamination. But it doesn't look like it's capped properly. People could dump stuff down it. It could be a conduit for hazardous materials. At the least, it either needs to be capped properly or closed properly, depending upon the regulations in your local area. And yes, could this pile come from on-site excavation stuff? It could. Who knows? But that's part of what you'd research. But at least you got the photo to know to research it. Great photo, right? Remember, whoever does the site inspection should just take pictures of everything. You don't have to use all the pictures. You don't even have to look through all the pictures. But the idea is you want to document the site for the report writer, even if it's you, so you remember everything and dress everything. What about this one? This is crazy. I love this photo. What's our biggest problem here? And there is a big problem here. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Water, mold. Look at black mold right here. Mold. Bad. I would recommend, and when I ran assessors for the last 30 years, I would tell them, if you're in a situation where it's a risk to your health, you get out. This is black mold. There's no doubt. Black mold back here. This is nasty. This is a nasty site. You know. Get out. I got containers over here. I got staining over there. Obviously, the roof or whatever leaks. I also got paint chips up here, but we're going to have another photo on paint chips. So here we got flaking paint chips. Flaking paint chips may contain lead. If they're flaking, that's bad for the people working in here. Now, this isn't a residence, obviously, and you're not going to have kids eating the dust or the chips on the floor, but you could be breathing them in. So this is a red flag. And keep in mind, white is the most common color that they use lead to get the white color. You didn't know that. Probably already all knew that, right? Here's paint chips again. Now, this isn't as radical as the last paint chips, but see how it's flaking off here? And metal paint was really prone to having lead in it because it helped make it a stronger paint that adheres better. It adheres better to metal. And so this is definitely a concern to anybody exposed to this. And lots of times, if you rub your hand on something like that and white comes off, that's oxidation. And if that paint had lead in it, you just got lead on your hand. Okay, that's it. We're done. We actually talked about all these. I do appreciate you guys all attending. If you have any photos of some cool surface features that should be a red flag or unusual ones, send them to me and I'll put them in our next webinar. I'd appreciate it. If you would like to attend any of our other webinars, just let me know. If any you want me to teach a webinar just for your people, let me know. I'll do groups of people, a special private webinar. No cost. Our webinars are no cost. Our idea is if we can make you more efficient, better at your jobs, keep you from getting sued, provide you with all kinds of information and your people with information, and you're successful, you're going to use us and we're going to be successful. So we appreciate your business. If you're not our client and you'd like a copy of this PowerPoint presentation or these photos so you can use them in-house as a presentation, let us know, but you've got to be a client. So if you're not a client, become a client. We'd love to have you. If you do large volume of phase ones, and we can definitely work with you on pricing to a point. You want us to do a good job, so if we cut our prices too much, we can't do a good job for you, right? Thank you, Steve. This is just the first one of a series on red flag surface features. Remember, we're going to do it every month until I run out of new photos. They're going to be different every time. So eventually you'll be able to put these webinars together and you'll cover just all kinds of stuff. So remember, send me any photos you have of red flag surface features that I didn't identify today. Everybody, thank you very, very, very much. Thank you, John. John, I need to hire you. You know, you should be doing marketing for me. Sweet. So guys, remember when you order one of our RecCheck reports, the RecCheck radius search report, you get it in a matter of minutes, usually within the hour, via email, so keep an eye out for it. Our packs take anywhere from 2 to 3 days. We do have a rush service. We do lane search, even though we hate it, but because we hate it so much, we do a good job. But, you know, we can provide you with anything you need. If you ever get a report or a photo of something that you need a second opinion on, just send it to me. My opinion's free on the phone, and I'll be glad to give you my 2 cents worth. I'm full of a lot of, you know, obviously I can talk. Thank you, Mark. Sweet. I'm glad it worked out. Sometimes we get these rushes and we're not able to turn them around as quick as we hope, but most of the time we can. So anyway, thank you very much for being clients, and everybody have a super, super, super great afternoon. Remember, go sign up for our other webinars on our website. Thank you, everybody. Bye.